Hi everyone, welcome back to Creatively Crafted Life. My name is Melanie and with me today is Lela. Hi Lela.
Hey, how you doing, Mel?
I am doing all right. You're still in Milwaukee. It's been a whole
I'm
week.
still in Milwaukee. Yep. Wouldn't you know, they had a conference and, even though it's the 1st of March and like I mentioned in the last one, it's a little cold. This is where we're at. Makes
Yeah.
staying inside easy.
Yeah, for sure. And speaking about staying inside, we thought we would do another video with another challenge this month with a lead up to our event on March 25th and 26th. If you haven't already joined our Facebook groups, be sure to do so. The information is down below. What else do we need to tell them about the event? It's Friday.
Our theme.
Oh,
Our
right.
Theme.
Right.
It's Friday and Saturday, March 25th and 26th. And our theme this time is something a little bit different. Something old, something new, something borrowed, and something scrappy, colorful. So red, blue, yellow, green, all sorts of colors. So just kind of playing off that old little rhyme. And really, as we talked about last week, our goal is really to encourage you to not only perhaps use something new that we all like to do, right? Or get something new that helps you use up something old or something borrowed. This has been a fun theme.
Speaking of something new, we are using the same 2 stamp sets for all of our challenges. So our something new is consistent. We just felt that rather than do something new every time, we want to encourage people to still use what they have. Often we buy a stamp set, use it once or twice, and then it gets buried in our stash. So we really want to encourage people that when they do get something new, that they put it through its paces, so to speak.
There you go. Or you might use one, out of a set, you might use one stamp. I can't tell you how many sets I have in my stash, Mel, where I've used 1 or 2 of the whole set. So that's been kind of fun too, to try to figure out how to use more than just one of the favorites.
Yeah, absolutely. So the stamp sets, they are available from the current catalog from Close to My Heart, which we will also leave a link below to Leila's website. The first one is Thoughtful Florals, and it is exactly that. It is a floral stamp set. And then the other one is Slimline Quotes and Sentiments. And as you can guess, it is appropriate for using on slimline cards, but they don't necessarily need to be slimline. And hopefully we will show you through the course of these 3 weeks leading up that there are different ways that you can use these quotes or sentiments without necessarily making a slimline card. Okay, so let's jump into the projects for this week and our challenge for this week. So this week, as we hinted last time, it was about embossing, but really what we wanted to focus on was embossing folders.
Right. So I don't know about you, but I have a whole basket full of all sorts of embossing folders. Plus, I think I have a binder that holds embossing folders. And every time I emboss, dry emboss with a folder, I love it. I love the look. I love the texture. It always, especially on cards, I really think it adds some dimension and some texture. And I don't know why I don't do it more often, other than getting out. I have an old embossing crank handle, and having to get it out. But this time it was fun because I cut a bunch of different panels, and you're going to see some more cards and scrapbook pages from me as examples. And I did multiple colors and multiple folders. So I kind of used your idea, Mel. You do that a lot, where you're like, hey, I've got this out. I'm already doing it. I'm going to do more than one. And that's what I did.
Yeah, I find I am definitely someone that will use it if it's there. More likely to use it if it's there, versus if I somehow I make things bigger in my mind than what they are. Like, oh, it's such a big deal to pull out an embossing folder. But it kind of feels like that when you're in the groove and and you just go, oh, I can make something else work instead. And so then I don't gravitate towards it. But if I had 3 or 4 pre-embossed panels, I would probably go, oh, that would work. So I definitely want to do a little more focus on that in the next little while, of kind of having some stuff pre-done so that I can readily use it.
Yeah, we've both been really busy working, like we kind of mentioned last time, and making some of this a little bit easier when you do need a moment. I don't know about you, but there have been a few days where I've just needed a moment or a few moments to craft. And I I'm not going to sit down and do a long period of time, because all of a sudden I sit down after a long day of work on some nights. And yeah, I run out of steam in about 20 minutes. So it was really fun to have some of these panels already done and just kind of go, oh, hey, I'm going to make a card or two with those. And to your point, they were done, they were embossed, and they were ready to go.
And actually, also to what you're saying is, if you are in that point where you are just like, I am so tired, I can't think creatively, making those panels at that point in time is a perfect opportunity, because it still lets you be creative without having to put a lot of effort into it. So just something to keep in mind.
Perfect idea. Yeah. Sometimes you need something to get your mojo fired up or your creativity going. And that would be, definitely pulling out your embossing folders and in your machine and doing some panels.
So I'm going to go first again this week. So for the first card, I really wanted to challenge myself to use the Slimline set. So when I first got the stamp sets, I was like, the florals, no problem, easy peasy, I can make something with it. And I didn't think the Slimline was going to be that difficult, but I found it harder than I thought it was going to be. And I don't know if it's because they're like full on quotes versus just like a single line sentiment. So I was like, okay, you got to use this. You got to figure out how to do this. And so when I was looking through my embossing folders, I came across this one from Couture Creations. It's called Anna Lee. It's probably about 15 years old. I'm thinking it's probably one of the first embossing folders I got, probably on a discount, because y'all know that's how I like to build up my supplies. And it has an embossed image or a frame sort of on either side, and then this channel right down the middle. And I was looking at it, I'm like, I think that one of these stamp sets will fit in there perfectly, which it absolutely did. And so what I ended up doing was stamping out the sentiment in a coordinating color to my card base. And then the question was, of course, what to do for the embossed panel. And in the spirit of our challenge, I was like, maybe I can borrow something. And so I actually went to the kitchen and I borrowed some aluminum foil. Now, those of you that watch my channel for any length of time know I have a ton of foil. So I really did not need to go to the kitchen to get some aluminum foil, but it was fun. Like the idea of doing it was fun. And so why not, right? And so for those of you that perhaps don't have as much foiled cardstock as me, but would like to have the foiled look, it works pretty well. I just use like a glue stick, glue it to some regular cardstock, and make sure that it's smoothed out all nice and flat, and then run it through an embossing folder. And I've done this before with like a clock face or gear embossing folder that I have, and that looks really cool as well.
I bet.
Always distress it with some ink on top of it to get into the nooks and crannies. It looks pretty cool. So that was the basic premise of my card. And then I just cut out a few of the small floral pieces. I didn't do much, even though my card is a 5x7 card. The florals are quite small because there's so much going on already, right? With the foil look and the embossing and the big sentiment. But yeah, I really like how it turned out.
What a good idea. Just because they call them slimline sentiments doesn't mean you had to put it on a slimline card, right? And I kind of got hung up on that as well at first. Like, oh, let me get out, a slimline card and add the slimline sentiment. But what I was struggling with a little bit was, okay, well, it looks a little bit plain, right? Because I just had it in my head that it had to go on there. So I think that's really cool that you still, you did a 5x7, still using the slimline sentiment. And I have not tried the foil. So let me just tell you, I think that's awesome. What a fun technique.
Yeah, it works it turned out pretty well. I mean, you do have to make sure that you don't have any glue clumps. You know how like sometimes when you use a glue stick, it breaks off in chunks. You want it to be smooth, but other than that, it worked really well. It foiled beautifully.
Do you use the shiny side of the foil or the little bit more dull side of?
I actually did the little more dull side just because one of the things with foil is it's so in your face. And there's a fair amount of foil on this card still, even though I covered up the main panel or the middle of the panel with paper, there's still enough on there. So I did use the dull side. But of course, if you wanted to go full on shine, you could use the other side.
Yeah, I think that's kind of cool though, right? Because it's still got a little bit of that tin look, you know, without like you said, maybe being super shiny.
So you also made a card this week.
Yeah, I did. I made another card. I thought the same thing. I wanted to use the Slimline sentiments this week since in the last video I didn't end up using it, although I made a Slimline card and didn't make it work. So I did your standard embossing folder, right? Got out a couple of my favorites, a floral one that I got not too long ago with Close to My Heart, and ran it through my embossing folder. The Close to My Heart cardstock is a white core cardstock. So I also took a little bit of sandpaper and rubbed it on my background or on my embossing just to give it a little bit more of a roughed up look. So I really like to be able to do that with Close to My Heart cardstock. Their embossing folders, one of the things I really like about them is that they have very, I don't know if you'd say deep, but very sharp images. I like the textured look of it.
I love the idea of sanding it. I think it also just helps make that image pop a little more from the background. And let you see it a little bit better.
And I, just like we talked about last week, needed a little something on one of the tags I have on the card you'll see. And so I did get my stencils back out again this week, Mel. So I'm doubling up on our challenge here and did a stencil background on one. And then the other one, here, let me show it to you. I used the stamp. I used a different stamp this week, still a floral one. I kind of rocked it in 2 or 3 different colors and stamped the second tag that I have there, just to give it a little bit of, some dimension and some color. I probably would have used a piece of printed paper, but in the spirit of the challenge,
you made your own.
Decided to, make my own. So, and then I don't know if you can see, but my stencils on this card or on this tag.
Oh, that's pretty.
A little bit of a gray background. So one of the things that I did with the Slimline stamp was I actually only used part of the saying. I actually put the rest of the saying on the inside of the card.
Oh, that's awesome. Actually, this particular stamp has a spot right in the middle where it's got a little bit of a gap on it, which is perfect for this. And if you were worried about keeping it separated, again, you could cut it apart like we talked about last week.
You could. The beautiful thing about acrylic stamps is you can also bend them or fold them. So I actually just folded that on my block, so I didn't get any ink on it. So it was a very clean, clear, crisp stamp. And then I did the same thing for the bottom half and then just stamped the bottom half on the inside.
I like that you also stamped on the inside. That's cool. That's a nice little touch.
Yeah, it really filled out. It's a birthday. It's a really cool quote, for a birthday card, something a little bit more elegant and just happy birthday. And then it just really finished off the card nicely on the inside. So I thought that was fun. And then you see, I'm still using that ribbon.
Well, if it's out on your desk, you might as well, right?
Right. And I am not putting it away. I'm using it and having it out. And again, I love ribbon on cards. I always have. And so it's been fun to have it out laying on my desk. I've used ribbon a little bit more, not even just this ribbon, but some other ribbons, just because, in the spirit of what we're trying to do. But I really enjoyed getting out those embossing folders and doing some different embossed backgrounds. And like I mentioned, I did a bunch of different colors so that I could come up with some different things. Especially, it's a great month to do that with Close to My Heart because we're having that cardstock sale. So you can get some cardstock bundles if you need some different colors, or maybe you want to freshen up your stash a little bit with some fresh new colors. They're having a sale this month on cardstock.
Gotta love a sale.
Gotta love a sale.
Got to love a sale. That's me. So the final project we're going to share today is a scrapbook layout. It's one I made using scrap pieces of paper. So I'm really stretching the use your stash. I went into my scraps. And those of you that know me or have been watching will know I don't really keep scraps. I will pre-cut them down into preset panels. So I found a panel that was roughly 2 inches, and I used up a bunch of them to cut 2-inch squares in all the colors in line with the, something blue, orange, red, purple.
Scrappy, colorful goodness.
I think I used all the colors. No, not quite, but I did use quite a variety, and basically just did a tile background with these embossed cardstock panels. So it's another great way to use solid cardstock in your stash. Is to just add some embossing folder texture to it, and it looks like a very expensive piece of paper instead of just plain cardstock. And then because there's so much color going on in the background, I opted to not color the images of the florals and just left them in black and white. And I think that they pop against the colorful background. Whereas I think if I did color them, they would kind of recede back into it and you wouldn't notice it quite so much. And then, of course, the star of the show is my cute little niece in a bright purple outfit. So again, bringing that color back in to the foreground. And then I just pulled some stickers, whatever you want to call them, from my stash. And that was it.
Love about your layout, how many times do we spend a lot of time, right, looking for that perfect background paper? And especially in a color like purple. I think your niece is wearing, like a purple. And so purples sometimes, or some other unique colors, right, can be a little bit challenging to get, right, the background that we want. And I love your layout because what you did is mixed in some really cool colors by just using some cardstock and then giving it some dimension and texture with using the embossing folders, and probably saved you a lot of time digging through your stash for that one perfect purple piece of paper.
Well, and actually, because I don't have a ton of purple, as many of us know, it's not a very popular color in the scrapbooking world. The color actually doesn't exist in the tiles that I created. But because there's so many colors going on there, her purple outfit looks just like another color, and that it's all intentional. Which
right,
at least that's how I look at it in my mind. I hope that came across that way.
Right. Yeah. I just thought by mixing those colors, she made it like a really colorful, you know what I mean, where it mixed really well.
So I did try to find a sentiment or like a die cut strip or something that said something like "you color my world" or something along that theme. I couldn't find anything, so I just picked an alternate title, but you could play along that kind of theme with this kind of background, where the focus is on color.
Right. You can talk about the color. Yeah, that's cute. I really like too that touch of the black and white. There's always a point in a layout sometimes where you need something to ground it a little bit, like a black or white something. And you really did a great job with your using the florals, like you said, without adding color to them and making them a really cute embellishment that kind of grounded it.
And of course, I sound like this was all planned, but I just didn't want to color them. Isn't that funny how that works?
Here I'm giving you credit for some artistic thought process. You're like, no, I just didn't want to color them.
Well, I think that just goes to, the idea that sometimes where you're at can drive where you're going to be, right? So we talk a lot about how having something convenient drives our creativity to some extent, right? So if the embossing folder feels like too much work, we don't incorporate it. But if it's there, we use it. And this is the same kind of thing where I had these images already stamped out. I just didn't feel like coloring them. And mostly it was because I didn't know what color to color them. And then I had this idea of doing this tile background, and you know, it just was kind of like, well, why not just leave them? There's nothing that says you have to color them in.
And I think we could probably use stamped images on our layouts a little bit more, like you said, like that, where they don't always have to be colored. They could just be part of the background. Or in your case, like you used them as an embellishment in black and white.
If you do have a beautiful piece of pattern paper, let's say, why not use that and just add some black and white focal images, stamped images on, and just let the paper speak for itself. You know, that's all you need. Now, of course, if you want to color, go for it. And I mean, I did enough coloring on the last one, so I think it's okay that I didn't color these.
Yeah, I kind of cheated too. I used some ink, just some different color inks, and didn't color my flowers in either. So again, that's kind of a fun thing too. They don't have to be black and white. They could be, you know, a color, but not colored in. I just used some ink.
Well, and even something like this, you could just leave the flowers white and color in the leaves if you wanted to get around it as well. So I guess just if you're looking at your stamp sets and you're thinking it's too much work, again, twist the scenario a little bit. How can you make it work for where you're at? So if you don't have time to color it, then don't color it.
That's the versatility of stamps, right? So we both have a lot of stamps in our stash, and it was fun this week trying to, you know, use them just a little more creatively.
So that is it for this week. We hope you guys enjoyed our projects, and we highly encourage you to pull out some embossing folders that you have in your stash. Let us know either in the comment below or in our Facebook group what you pulled out and how you use them. If you feel comfortable sharing your projects over there, we would love to see what you come up with. We hope you will join us for the March event. It is free. I don't think we've mentioned that, but there is no cost associated with it. We just want you to come share your enthusiasm for all things paper crafting.
Yeah, so we're looking forward to seeing everybody on March 25th and 26th.
Thanks, everyone. And until next time, happy crafting.